myself. I kicked myself on the regular for that one because I had a man that loved me, that was genuine with me. He catered to me. He gave me everything I wanted. He did without to provide for me. I came first before anything else. And he would, this one was educated. This one had intelligence. This one had common sense. He was well loved and respected. And he was too decent. I finally had a decent man, and I chose a friggin' Butu over him.
Guilty.
I chose a Butu over him. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
You know, this is the common situation. A woman will meet a good guy. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
a woman will meet a good guy, and she will take the good guy for granted and cheat on the good guy with some
Yeah.
bum dude,
Nobody.
with some guy that is not even, that don't even, can't even hold a candlestick to the good dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I never knew you did that, Michelle, but I'm going to ask you this question because I think I want to hear more about this, right? We're on this call longer than I wanted to because I wanted to call other people, but this particular episode in your life story, I want you to tell the story. So I'm going to ask a question and kind of lead the storytelling, but I want you to tell it. Now, just like how you mentioned before that ugly guy came up to you and you talked to that ugly guy like, do you think you have a chance with me, ugly guy? And you still gave him a chance.
Exactly.
Now, with this good guy, how did that relationship start? Can you remember the first day, the first thing he said to you? What led you up to into going into a relationship, and what led you to cheat on him? Let's start there.
So, I was actually with some friends, and basically we went to visit a friend of a friend. He was there, and for some reason, I think I left my number for somebody else that lived in the house, and he seemed to be admiring my cousin that was with me. So the next day, I got a call, and he asked for me, and once I realized who it was, I said, "Oh, you probably want my cousin." Like, no, I'm calling for you. And I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he described me to a T, and I said, "Okay." But the thing is, he had dreads, and I've never been attracted to dreads. I never liked Rasta. I never liked any guy with, like, long hair braids. I never liked that. So I don't remember how, but for some reason, we ended up meeting up, and we were just outside talking. And the conversation started at 6 p.m. and it ended at 6 a.m. the next morning. We were just sitting down outside talking. And it went that way for one whole week. Every evening, we would meet up, we would talk, and by the next morning, we'd still be outside just talking. So we actually were just friends at first. And then after 2 months of just having these long conversations, it's like the two of us just, I don't know, it was like an instant thing, like not an instant, but a mutual thing where the two of us just fell in love. And he was a Rastafarian, and I told him, I said, I will never be a Rastafarian. I eat pork, I eat meat, I will never be a vegetarian. And he said to me, he'll never try to change me, and I agreed that I would never try to change him. And we were together for 7 years. And everything was going really good. I didn't cheat on him. I mean, we were good to each other.
Break up for a second.
Traveled together.
Break for a second.
Right.
Let's go back.
Okay. Right.
you jump forward saying you were together for 7 years. I need to find out
Right.
when and what happened as to why you cheated on him. What happened?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's go back to there.
So,
Mhm.
all right. So what happened is after we had been together for about 5 years,
Mhm.
about 5 years or so, I went out with a friend one night, and we went to a party. And when we were leaving the party, who is now my child's father, came up to me and basically offered to buy my friend and I a drink.
How old were you then?
And 27,
Okay.
27 years. And so, we were like, no, but we want something to eat. And we were just saying like all kind of stuff because, of course, this is another ugly guy. And we're basically just messing with him, thinking that he was like, all right, never mind. But to our astonishment,
Mhm.
he bought us drinks, food, and whatever.
Mhm.
And that went on for the whole night. Like, he was basically just like showering us the whole night, taking care of us the whole night at this the after party. So anyway, he asked for my number, and I don't know why, but I decided to give him my number. I didn't like him, but I gave him my number anyway.
Mhm.
And long story short, every time I spoke to him, or every time I spoke to him, every time I saw him, he would give me money.
Mhm.
I don't have to tell you what type of work he did. He was street side pharmaceutical, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So every time I saw him, I got more money than the time before. And I guess I was so attracted to that, like just having somebody just constantly giving me money.
Mhm.
And at the time, my boyfriend was not working, and I was really frustrated with him because I'm like, what's going on? And he told me, oh, I'm a Rasta, nobody will hire me. And I'm telling him, but back then, it was a little different than how it is now.
Mhm.
Like, at that time, you used to have to, like, if you worked in an office environment, you had to have, your hair had to be a certain style. You couldn't have unnatural colors. You had to be dressed professional all the time. It was
True.
a different time
Mhm.
in the workforce,
Mhm.
right? Your
Yes,
hair had to
yes.
be neat, whatever. But I told him, I said, I went to the post office. I saw somebody with dreads. I see, people with dreads sometimes in different places. And he said, no, nobody's going to hire me. And so I was really, like, frustrated with that part. And I guess that was the excuse maybe that I used at the time
Mhm.
to justify dealing with this guy that was giving me money when my boyfriend couldn't give me any money and whatever.
Mhm.
So eventually, my child's father was basically paying all my bills. And I was spending more time with him than I was with my boyfriend. I was hardly coming home. And I basically looked at my boyfriend and I said, you know what, this is not going to work anymore. I can't be with a man who is not going to provide. Because, let me rewind, yeah, every man that I've ever had in my life has been a provider.
Mhm.
My father was a provider. And so I've always known that a man is to be submissive to a provider. That's how I was raised.
A woman is supposed to be submissive to a provider, is what you said?
Yes, because I was raised that a man is supposed to be the king,
Mhm.
woman is the queen, the queen is submissive to her king.
Right.
That's how
right.
I was raised,
Right.
right? But a man cannot be a king if he cannot provide for his household. If he can't take care of his household and is depending on the woman to be the provider, then there's not going to be, you can't be submissive to somebody if you're the one taking care of everything like you're the man. This is my mindset. This is how I was raised.
Continue. I'm making notes.
That's right, and that's the reason why my father was able to run the show in my household, in our household, because he was the provider. Right?
Mhm.
So anyway, going back to my boyfriend now, I found it hard to respect him because he couldn't provide. right? And so I stopped dating. I stopped dealing with him, and I went full time to my child's father. Now, with my child's father, I didn't even have to work. I didn't have to do anything. He did everything for me financially.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I fell in love with that lifestyle. Traveling, he bought me a brand new Lexus. He did everything for me financially.
Mm-hmm.
So and mind you, I only have one child.
Right.
So this is the man that I had a child with.
Right. So let me ask. So the money was the power that got you to shift from the guy that really loved you.
Yeah.
And
Right.
at what point did you regret your decision?
Probably after I got pregnant. Because at that time I realized I had made a major mistake. Because I knew that, for one, I didn't want to marry this man. And remember, I come from a family that doesn't believe in having children out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a child at 30 years old. So this is to let you know how long I waited,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
I knew that this was not a man that would be a good father. He was a rolling stone. He was all over the place. He'd come and go. The only thing I knew that was sure was money from him.
Mm.
But other than that, I couldn't depend on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, money, he would never leave me out when it came to money. But he wasn't somebody that you could say you're going to build a life with.
And so during that time, did you start calling your ex, the guy that truly loved you?
So believe it or not, me and him never stopped speaking to each other, or we wouldn't see each other, but we always had our conversations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we always told each other that we would get back together, that we knew that we loved each other so much that we were going to get back together. But he had started a relationship as well. So he was in a relationship, I was in a relationship. So it's like the two of us were basically waiting on these relationships to fade out so that we could be back together.
Mm.
And I ended up getting pregnant. And that was like, I didn't even know what to do at that point, because now this meant this was going to change everything with my ex-boyfriend, you know, and I waited until I was 5 months pregnant
Before you told
tell
him.
him that I was pregnant. Yeah, and he never spoke to me again. And then he passed away 2 days before my daughter was born. He drove motorcycles, and a truck driver hit him and tried to run off, and he died instantly.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
you've been holding that pain inside all this time.
Yeah.
If you could have done it all over again, would you make a different decision in
course.
hindsight?
Of course. Definitely, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Mhm.
Without a doubt. I feel like God sends one soulmate to you.
Mm.
You know, and the thing is, as humans, we tend to ignore signs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get, I believe in signs anyway. I can't speak for anybody else, but I believe in signs. And we get them, and we know what's right and wrong, but we ignore it. Because, you know, we want instead of need. And my ex-boyfriend was a need. My child's father was a want.
Right.
Because that's all he had to offer was what I wanted.
What you wanted.
You know, material items. Yeah, that a material item only lasts but so long. But something that you need can last your lifetime.
Right. Now,
you know?
I'm going to make two statements. But do you think that this is not one of the statements, but this is a question to you? Do you think that the want that you had at that time for the financial benefits was in some way to impress your friends, to say that you have a man that showers you with gifts and money, and you can go splurge anytime you want and buy whatever you want? It was more like impressing your friends at the same time.
No, no, I never cared about my friends, but I do enjoy. All right, so the thing is this: my child's father. When I talk about butu, right? He is the definition of a butu. He's illiterate. That's one, right? He's fully illiterate. However, he was making money. And what I tried to do was actually mold him, because I used to tell him, listen, how many old drug dealers do you know? You need to, you need to invest your money. You need to get a return on your money. And that's what I thought we were going to be able to do together. But he was only living for the day. He felt like this money would never end. And I fell into that trap because I knew better. I knew that investments needed to be made, that things needed to be done. And what I would do is every time he gave me money, I would take half and put it in a bank account. Right? Which that did benefit me, but only for a short term, for a series of years. Whereas if I would have done what I knew, I would have been set for life. I literally passed up a $10 million deal, a legal deal. This was a real estate deal. Yeah, this was, and I knew better. Because remember, these are the things that my family, that I learned from my family. But I just fell into this getting money all the time. Okay, I'll do it another time, and I let things pass, But the thing is, this man, my child's father, today does not have a dollar to his name. When I was with him, he was a millionaire. And he does not have a dollar to his name because he just felt like this money was never going to end, and all he used his money for was material items. That was it.
So let me make these two statements based on what I heard what you said, and it's the common is the common statements I've heard from women and men over the years. And I've been around for a couple hundred years. I like to say that.
Of course,
right?
of course.
Woman, this one is for you. Don't take drinks from men, because it may lead to something that you never expected to happen.
Of course.
Right? The drink could be tainted. They could drop something in the drink, or the drink is just to open the door so they could further move in and take you from who you are with, or to further get you softened up to accept what they want to bring into your life. So that's one. Don't take drinks from men in the club. It may lead to something that you never expected. Number two, right? She also stated that she was taught that a woman should not be submissive to a man if he can't pay the bills, right? I don't agree with that, because a man is a man regardless, and money comes up and money goes down. Sometimes good investments are made, sometimes bad investments are made. But if you decide that you are not going to be submissive to a man simply because he's having a down season, that's not good, right? That's not good, right? So I wanted to say that.
Facts.
And that's important. So, with all of that said, right, you end up right now where you have made the solemn decision that being single is the best thing for you.
I mean, I would love to have a loving, healthy relationship. I would love that. That's what I want for myself. However, I continue to make poor choices in men. So because of that, as of right now, I just have to say until I can figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong. I made a decision to stay single.
But you're still unhappy because you don't have that love that you missed in the past from the love of your life, the soulmate that passed away. That's what you're really missing.
Right.
I'm going to say this.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to say this for single women because apparently, right, single is the new dating status for many women.
Right.
That's the new dating status.
Right.
However, primarily in the Western world, right, or the world or community or environment that has been infiltrated by feminism, that plays a major part in why we have so many single women. So I'm going to say this, right? Being that in the Western world, feminism has taken over, and in the Eastern world, right? In the Eastern world, we have the patriarchy still, right? You know what the difference between the patriarchy and the matriarchy is, right? Do you know?
Tell me.
Okay.
No, clarify it for
A
me.
patriarchy is a man-dominated ran society. A matriarchy is a woman-dominated ran society. Even though there are men in that matriarchy society that's making decision, they're primarily making decision that put women above men. So that's why you have the Me Too movement, where believe all women, and even though most of those women, many of them were lying and taking the guys for their wealth, marrying them for a few years, having a child, and then divorcing them and getting alimony and child support for the rest of their lives, right? So patriarchy and matriarchy. In a patriarchy society, right, primarily what happens is that the woman, the daughters, the mothers, the sisters, the aunties, the female cousins, the male counterpart or the males in their family would help them select a mate. So like I have a few Indian friends, right? And Pakistani people as well that I've known over the years, right? And the woman did not pick her husband. I know a man, right? He's 69 years old, probably 70 now, right? And he's been married for a very long time. So when he was 17 years old, he met his wife. And he's met his wife because the family vetted her before he met her. Right? And brought them together to have conversation to see if they would actually have any cohesion in their relationship, if they would gel. Right? So they met each other. They're young. She's 16. He's 17. And they start having conversation. She really didn't like him at first. Right? But her family realized that he was a good guy. Right? And his family realized that she has some qualities that they want to bring into their family for their son. So they got married when he turned 18 and she was 17. Right? He's 70 years old now. Last time I spoke to him, he was 69. Right? So that's like a year ago. So I know his birthday was coming up. He's 70 years old right now. His wife is 69. They've been married since she was 17 and he was 18. Right? Because what happened is that most of the time, the family are the one who vet the man first. So in the Western world that where we're living in, we're taught that the woman has the right to go out and find the mate that she wants to be with. But most women make the wrong
Right.
decisions. Right? A woman will make a decision based, oh, she feel butterfly in her stomach. But you know what those butterflies are?
What?
A sexual attraction. Because let me put it to you. Let me bring you back to your past of when you realized that you knew from the ugly guy that you wanted to be with him. You knew from the guy that you were in love with, the good guy that you want to be with, and you knew from the guy that was giving you, sponsoring you, that you want to be with. The ugly guy, when you first met him, you didn't like him. But something he said made you feel warm feeling in your chest and butterflies in your heart. And what happened? You got wet.
Yeah.
You got aroused.
You're right.
And when you got aroused, that was the decision that made you realize that you want to be with him, because he said something that turned you on. All of them said something that turned you on, and then that's when you made that decision. Because a woman will know if she is going to be intimate with a man or not. She knows, usually from the first couple of conversations. Now, had you listened to me way back then, after that relationship that you had with that abusive guy, right? And I said, next guy you're interested in, let me meet him. That which never happened.
I know.
Which never
I knew you
happened.
was shit. It's because I knew he wasn't a good guy. That was the problem, and I was embarrassed.
You didn't want me to say no, he's not good for you, because
To tell me yes, leave that alone. Exactly, because I knew.
you're right. You already had butterflies in your belly, and your privates got wet.
Lord.
No, I'm being real, because that's what happens. I know, because I've been around for a couple hundred years, and I've been with a few women, and I know exactly how it plays.
Lord.
So now you're single,
Oh, boy.
and your status is single, and you want a relationship, but it's hard to have a relationship,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yep.
you're scared.
Very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you're scared.
Yep.
Right? So sometimes I heard a man said this the other day. I don't remember if it was online or offline, but I heard a man say this the other day. Sometimes the person that you need to be with is somebody that you've known for a very long time. Could be a friend.
Right.
And because whatever happens in that relationship, when you have a friend that you've known for a very long time, that friend is going to be so open with you that there's nothing to hide. I currently know someone right now, right, that he's in a relationship with someone, and he would share everything he does with the current girlfriend that he has, right? Even while he was seeing other women, he would tell her, I'm seeing this woman now, I'm banging this chick right now, I'm banging this chick right now.
You're saying he would confess those things to his woman?
Before that was his woman, they were just friends.
Oh, okay.
Right? And she would tell him things, and so they had such an open, candid relationship that they weren't pretending. So now that he realized that, wow, this is a good woman, and she realized, wow, he's a good guy, right? They realized that they need to step in a different direction. Friends became lovers, and now in a relationship, a happy relationship. I know them personally, right? And
but let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you something, though. Let me interrupt you. Human nature, that can backfire, because sometimes when friends become lovers, remember, she knows his dirt, he knows her dirt, and that becomes paranoia, because she knows that prior to her, he always had different women, or he knows prior to him that I kick myself on the regular for that one. because I had a man that loved me, that was genuine with me. He catered to me. He gave me everything I wanted. He did without to provide for me. I came first before anything else. And he would,